Hello friends, myself Dilip Chaturvedi. I'm a PMP certified professional. I'm a trainer for this chapter 3 session, and this is all about the project management process. So let's start it. Okay, so what is a project management process? So the process is a set of action and activities to achieve a product, result or services. It is basically a set of the action activities to achieve the product, result or services. And the project management is an interactive endeavor. An action or failure to take an action in one area will usually affect other areas. So the project management, if you talk about as an interactive endeavor, it's basically an action or failure to taken in one areas may affect other areas also. So the project management generally falls into two groups. One is the project management process, another is a product oriented process. So these are two different, the things, and PMBOK is totally focused on the project management process because it's a generic across the industry, but product oriented process is basically in the industry specific. So like for healthcare, it is a for that process is different from the civil, from the other education industry. So that's why the project management process is a generic for all the industry. So the PMBOK is totally focused on the project management process. Project management process are concerned with describing and organizing the work of the project. It is concerned with describing and organizing the work of the project. But product oriented process are concerned with specifying and creating a project product. So at the the at the in the product oriented process, it is more concerned about the product. Both processes overlap and interact throughout the project. So somewhere it interacts and throughout the project. The common project management process interaction. So let me highlight. Okay. If you see this, the starting, the enter the phase at the start of the project. So if you see this initiation phase, in the initiation phase, project gets started, and where different processes are involved into that. Different process, like here, develop project charter, identify stakeholder. These are the two important processes which is a part of the initiation process. Then here it involves to the planning process. In the planning process, you'll have it, you need to plan the project. In that you need to plan about basically what you can say, like a develop project management plan, develop plan schedule management plan, cost management plan, human resource management plan, stakeholder management. So basically all those things come under the planning processes. Then it comes to the executing process. In executing process is manage and direct the work. So it you project it basically in the execution phase. And then in all this, if you see this, there is a monitoring and controlling process is basically, it has it you need to monitor initial phase, you need to monitor at the planning phase also, you need to monitor at the executing process also, and you need to monitor at the closing process also. So monitoring and controlling is basically you need to monitor in all the processes. So basically there is a five processes. One is initiation, planning, executing, closing, and then the monitoring and controlling. So in another diagram, let me explain you. If you see this initiation, initiation process group, in this, at the starting, there's a graph look like, at the time, sometime at the starting of that, where it involved develop a charter and develop project charter. Then what you can say, identify stakeholders. So they spend time at the starting in the initiating process group. Then the planning process group, where it is more about the planning the project. Planning the project, when you talk about the project management plan, and develop the human resource management plan. So there's a lot of planning in every area, whether it's a cost, whether it's a schedule, whether it's about human resources, whether it's stakeholder management plan. So planning process are get involved. So now, and then executing process also is where the in executing process, if you can see, this is all about execution of the project activities. So, and here the monitoring and controlling process is all about you need to spend some amount of time on a monitoring in each and every process group. So please remember, monitoring and controlling is been like you have to, from the start to end, you need to this process group works on. So a lot of monitoring needs to be done it. And here, basically during the executing process, more time is spent in the monitoring and controlling. That's why it is at a peak level here. And closing it, at the as soon as the project get delivered, or and stakeholder accepted the deliverable, so it is, and you need to start the closing the project, where basically accept the deliverable and the project deliverables, and make sure that all the documentation had been, so is the closing process groups are there. So this is the two diagram which explain what are the different process groups at which different and what is their level of process interactions. So the first thing that is, we are going to focus on the initiating process group, and initiating process group perform to define a new project or new phase of an existing project by obtaining authorization to start a project or phase. So if you want to start any project, so this is a first process group that needs to be that needs to be worked on. So it is performed to define new project or new phase of an existing project, or is a new project. So which will, this in this way, we'll work on a different process groups are there, like as I mentioned, there's an initiating process group. What are the processes that needs to focus on this? That is a develop project charter and identify stakeholders. So there are two processes which is the main focus will be the one that is a develop project charter, another is a identify stakeholder. So these are two processes where the initiating process groups more focus on about it. So like you have a project input, and then you have this process are there, and then project deliverable which will, and project records. So project deliverable is going to be used by the end user, and the project records will be the organization process assets and different document which needs to be updated. And one more thing, whenever the project charter is approved, so the project is officially authorized. So the project charter, as soon as it, and this project charter approved is done at the initiating process group. So whenever project charter is approved, project officially authorized to start the project. Planning process group consists of those processes performed to establish the total scope of effort, define and refine the objectives, and develop the course of action required to attain those objectives. So it is basically consists of those processes performed to establish the total scope of the effort, total scope of the work, and define and refine the objective of the product, objective of the project, and develop the course of action. You need to develop the plan at the course of action which are required to attain those objectives. So basically more we are focusing on the planning. Suppose you want to start any project, so after the initiation process, like a project has been approved, then planning process comes in the picture, where scope needs to be defined, the what are the activities that needs to be done during the course of the project, that also needs to be planned. So the planning process plays very important role during the project execution. So what are the important thing that what are the processes which is a part of the planning process group? So let me explain you. Okay, so the planning process will develop project management plan, that is one thing. Then develop the stakeholder management plan, develop the procurement management plan, plan the the plan risk management, where the identifies risk, perform qualitative risk analysis, perform quantitative risk analysis, plan a risk responses. So what happens, these are the processes that needs to be covered into the planning process group. I will show you in one of the diagram which is mentioned from the PMBOK guide. So where what are the processes which falls under the planning process group. So these are all the processes which falls under planning process group. So make sure that we should remember it. One is a plan communication management plan, that is also falls on the planning, because you need to plan the what type of communication that you are going to use throughout the project, within a team, within a stakeholder. Plan scope management, this is very much important. So you need to plan the scope, collect the requirement, what are the ways we are going to collect the requirement, define the scope of the project. So this is something that we are going to cover within that interval of time. Create a WBA, that is a work breakdown structure. You need to, after the scope is done it, so you need to create the work breakdown structure with that interval of time, what needs to be achieved. So within that time frame, what needs to be achieved, what is the deliverable, how you are going to measure it. So that comes under create WBS. Then plan quality management. In the, you need to plan what are the things that you'll do in the quality management. So as whenever a project is delivered, or whenever the what are the quality measurement tools, or we are going to use it. Plan cost management, very important. Make sure that whatever the budget that has been defined, it whether it falls within that or not. So we need to plan all those things. Estimate a cost, determine a budget. Plan schedule management, sequence activities, estimate activity resources, estimate activity duration, and develop the schedule. So these are the very important processes which comes under the planning process. And one most important, that is a plan human resource management. What types of skills are needed for this the project. So you need to plan all those things. So that's why the planning plays a very important role in this process group. The next thing that is come to the executing process group. The consist of those processes performed to complete the work defined in the project management plan to satisfy the project specification. It is basically consist of those processes which needs to be performed to complete the work defined in the project management plan. So project management plan is created into the planning process group. So whatever has been planned, and that according to that, we need to execute it. So it is consist of those processes which basically follows the guidelines in the project management plan. Involves a coordination of people and resources, managing the stakeholder expectation, as well as integrating and performing the activities of project in accordance to the project management plan. Again, what in the executing process, if you see this, will they are going to follow the all activities or the process according to the project management plan. So the project management plan is very important, that defines the roadmap for the next process. So what are the processes which are a part of the executing process group? Direct management project work is there, and manage stakeholder engagement, very important. Conduct the procurements, what are the resources, materials are needed for the project, that needs to be, that conduct procurement process, take care of it. Manage communication, what types mode of communication, what types of communication that needs to be done. So that is in the manage communication. Manage project team, you need to manage the project team throughout the delivery of the project. Develop the project team, this is also important process that falls under the executing process group. Acquire a project team, so you need to how to build a team. So that is a that is also falls on the executing process group. Perform quality assurance, so this is a very important, which comes under the executing process group. What are the what are the assurance tools that we are going to use for quality. So basically these are the processes comes under the executing process group. Okay, so the monitoring and controlling process group consists of those processes required to track, review, and progress the performance of the project. It's basically, those processes are required to track and review the progress of the project, performance of the project. Identify any areas in which changes to the plan are required. Suppose sometime what happened, you had already planned some activities, but things have been, when it is in the execution phase, so something needs to be, some changes needs to be done it. So that area needs to be identified, and then changes are required, and then that area needs to be identified and changes to the plan are required. So these are the very important thing. If any changes are required, please do it. So that needs to be documented, and that comes into the highlight through the monitoring and controlling process group. Initiate a corresponding changes, so if any changes are required, just initiate it. So these are the thing that covers in the monitoring and controlling process group. What are the processes which comes under the monitoring and controlling process group? Let me explain you that is the control stakeholder engagement. So that is one thing. Control qualities, control risk, control procurement, monitor and control work, control communication. Then you have a control risk, control schedule, validate scope, control scope, perform and integrated change control. So if you see this monitoring and controlling, by the word controlling it itself explain that you need to control some, make sure that something has been defined, it should be only 50, the maximum is a 50, 50 hours needs to be spent on this thing. If something goes beyond that, so means that needs to be monitored, that needs to be why it takes 50, more than 50 hours. So here that is where the control comes in the picture. So control schedule, that falls in the control schedule too. So that's why the monitoring and controlling process groups are very important, because you'll come to know after the execution, and you need to measure it at some point of time. If any changes are required, that needs to be done it, and that through the monitoring and controlling process group. So there different processes are involved to perform, different processes are involved under this process group. A closing process group, it consists of those processes performed to conclude all the activities across all the project management process groups to formally complete the project phase or contractual obligation. So it is consist of all the processes required to conclude all the activities across all the project management processes, and it is basically to formally complete the project. It is basically in this process we are formally complete the project phase or contractual obligation. So these are the things that needs to be covered. At a project or phase closure, following may occur: obtain the acceptance by the customer or sponsor to formally close the project. So here you will may obtain the acceptance of the customer or sponsor to formally close the project. Conduct a post project or phase end review. So here you will be at a review side. Record the impacts of a tailoring to any process. So that is where if I record any impact of any tailoring to any process, so that needs to be recorded. Document lesson learned. So and if you learn any document, just document all those lesson learned that can be used for the future project. Apply appropriate updates to the organizational process asset. So just update the organizational process asset. So these are the processes which are basically comes under the closed project or phase. One is a conduct review meeting, release project resources, update organization process asset, and document lesson learned. So this is basically there's a four processes which comes under this process group. So the logical sequence, if I show you also how the project flows from high level, high level, I'm going to explain you what are the logical sequence come in the picture. Develop project charter. This is the first thing where it comes into the the initiating process. That is develop project charter. As soon as the project charter is done, means project is officially authorized to start it. The next thing that comes in the develop project manage project plan, where you plan it, what are the activity, what are the resources, schedule, time, cost, quality, everything needs to be planned. So it's a very detailed way. So the time is spent on the develop project plan. After the project plan is done, then it goes to the executing phase, and that is where the direct and managed project comes in the picture. Means project in the execution phase. So it's at some interval of time started giving a deliverable. So you'll get a deliverable in the form of work performance data. So try to remember it. During the executing process, during you'll get a work performance data, and the work performance data is number of change requests, number of defect, actual cost, actual schedule. It's basically work performance data, like after how many change requests come in, change come requests come, what are the number of defects, and actual cost, what are the cost will be there. So and these things when goes from the monitoring, that is from the control scope, control schedule, control cost, control quality, control communication. So when these work performance data given to these processes, like a control scope, control schedule, control cost, control quality, control communication, control risk, control procurement, control stakeholder, then it gives the work performance information. So try to remember, So these processes, when the work performance data, given the input to the uh, 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 these processes, it gives the work performance information. And what is the work performance information? Is the basically the implementation status of change request. So here it is number of change request, how many, 2 3 4, it is raw data, it is basically raw data is there. But here in the work performance information is like a implementation status of change request, forecasted estimation to complete. So this is a one thing, and stated deliverable. So this is basically the work performance information. And when work performance information is given to the input to the one of the process, that is a monitor and control project work, so it produces the work performance information report. And the report like status report, recommendation memos, and then this goes to the close project. So if you see this overall logical sequence, and then you can see this initiation, and then you have a planning, then you have executing, then you have monitoring and controlling, you have a closed process group. And one more thing, in the next classes, I'm going to also going to cover about the work performance data, work performance information, and work performance report. And you can get these detail on my blog, and you can visit to the www.justpmp.com. In the blog area, you'll find the more detail on this part. Okay, the control process scope and quality. So if you see this diagram, this is more about what are the control process are there, and how the scope and quality will be there. So, and after a direct control project, whatever the delivery comes, it goes to the control quality and control scope. And if you see this work performance data, this basically goes to the control scope, and then it produces the work performance information, and this is goes to the monitoring and controlling, and then it produces the work performance report. So this is how the control processor works into the this process areas. Project management process group and knowledge area. So this is if you see this diagram is taken from the PMBOK, and I will explain you the this diagram. Let me show you the diagram. If you see this diagram, let me show you. This is the diagram which is you'll find in the chapter 3, where the project management process is there. And what is develop a project charter, that is initiating process group. And once, okay. So if you see this develop project charter, and in the develop project charter and identify stakeholder, these are the two areas which develop project charter and identify stakeholder. These are the two process which falls under the initiating process group. That's what I was explaining you in the earlier slide. And in the planning process group, if you see that there's a develop project management plan schedule, collect requirement, define scope. This is all these things I have covered in the previous slide, which comes under the planning process group. And if you see, these are the process group. There's the 5 process groups are there, and these are the knowledge areas. In the knowledge area, like integration, scope management, time management, cost management. And within integration management, these are called as a processes. These are called as a processes. That is a develop project charter, and then direct and manage project work, monitor and control project work. These are the different process is a set of action and activities which produces some result and output and product. So, and in when you talk about a process, it has an input, it goes to the tools and technique, it gives you an output. So that is what we call as a process. I will explain you in the next slide in the next session, and where how the process is there. So basically the input, tools and technique, and output will be. So if you see that these are the different processes are there under the executing, different process come under the monitoring, different processes are there under closing. So this is basically this is basically the diagram which explain about the relationship between the the process group, that is a process group, and knowledge area. Within knowledge area there can have a multiple processes. and those processes can fall under a different process group. If you see this integration management, one process falls into the initiating process group, another falls into the planning process group. That is this planning process group that will develop project manage plan. Executing in under executing process group, this is a processor which falls under the executing process group, but it belongs from the integration management. Okay, so as I explain you here, so I was talking about the difference between work performance data, work performance information, and work performance report. So this is a blog that I was trying to refer you. You can visit to the justpmp.com on the blog side, and here you can see this this direct management perform. It gives work performance data, and these work performance data will become input to these different processes. That is a validate scope, control scope, and it gives you the work performance information. And work performance information is nothing but provides the foundation of project decision, and like implementation state of a change request, forecasted estimate to the complete state of deliverable. So these are the, it provides a foundation for the project decision, whether what decision needs to be taken. And when it pass through the monitor and control project work process, then it basically give you the work performance reports, that is called a status report, recommendation memos, and justification. And if that has been done, it goes to the perform integrated change control or control risk or control procurement. So it first goes into these process. So if I talk about the work performance data, so work performance data are the raw observation and measurement. It is basically the percentage of completion. Suppose you are in the execution phase, so you'll come to know is give you how many percentage, and 10%, 20%, this work has been done, 10%, 5%. So it's basically, this is called as a work performance data. Work performance information, it is the performance data collected from various controlling processes, analyzed in context and integrated based on the relationship across areas. So it is, it is performance data. It is basically performance data collected from various controlling processes and then analyzed. So that's what I was trying to say. So data, and these are the different processes after, and then it gives you the work performance information. Then what is a work performance report? It is a representation of work performance information compiled into the project document, intended to generate a decision, raise issue, action, awareness. So it is a representation of work performance information and compiled in the project document, and it is basically intended to generate a the decision or raise issue. So it's like a status report or memos or justification, information notes. So this is basically the work performance report. So this is a very important topic that you need to refer it. Okay, let's come to the slides, and this is the last slide. Thank you very much for this session, and if you have any doubt, any question, you can reach me at info@justpmp.com. You can visit our website www.justpmp.com, and you can download free PMP notes, which is based on the PMBOK Guide 5th edition as a free label. You can download from the Just PMP website under the free resources, and you can enroll for free mock 2 online test, and this is very similar to the PMP certification exam. So it's a totally free for you guys for practice. So just register it. We'll send you the credential for test, and we'll provide you free PMP application assistant. If you have any doubt, any question, you definitely you can reach it. You drop a mail at info@justpmp.com. Thank you very much.